Welcome back to Press Any Button to Continue. My name's Keith, and this is my beautiful, sassy, sexy, creamy, dreamy co-host, Nisha. Today we're going to be taking a look at a modern game. Oh my god! We're going to be taking a look at one of the most recent games that we both finished together, and we thought it was a good opportunity to compare and contrast what we love about this game, maybe the problems with modern games, maybe some of the benefits of them. But we're going to be taking a deep dive into the Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, a game that for many may or may not be better than Breath of the Wild. Maybe you missed the old linear Zelda games and the open world is just a little bit too much for you. Today we're going to explore all the nooks and crannies of this game as myself and Nisha hack it out and diddle and fiddle each other and find out really, what the fuck is going on these days with both of us. And also, I'm back on the podcast. Hello!
Welcome back, Keith. It's so
Thank you
good
so much.
to have you back, sir. How are you feeling?
I am feeling good. I'm excited to be back. I had my trip to Japan for a couple of weeks, and I was listening to your solo episode, which was fire. I'm going to be honest with you, I was listening to it and I was just, there's these Japanese toilets, right? And I just need to explain this very quickly. I miss the toilets so much over there because what they have is they have a whole computer panel, okay? One that sprays in your arse, one that they have a front flappy Rooney spray as well. And I was listening to your podcast while getting the double trouble spray in my tainty lane.
Tag teamed.
I was being tag teamed by the toilet while listening to your beautiful voice. So
that must have made it even better, was it?
Dude, I'm talking like stimulation coming out of every orifice. Do you know what I mean? So it was,
Christ.
and you can tell I brought the podcast right back down to where it should be in the smutty area. You really were too classy. Let me be honest. You raised a professional bar that I must eradicate as soon as possible. You know what I mean? I was like, hack that boy down with the little. Sorry.
But how was your trip? How was your trip to Japan? Fill us in.
Trip was insane. I've never felt so safe in a place in all my life, which was just crazy. It's like the opposite of a culture shock. I feel like they just do everything better. Now, I do understand that if you're living there and working there, the work-life balance is supposed to be kind of not great. But in terms of visiting,
from a tourist point of view,
10 out of 10. I don't think I'll ever personally go to a place that represents the inside of my brain better. Imagine the inside of my head and then create a city around that, and that's what Akihabara in Tokyo is like, with the retro video game scene, all the anime, the manga, the hentai, the fleshlights. It's just a never-ending sea of good pleasures,
And what video games did you buy for yourself? Ooh.
Oh, damn.
I
so
saw
listen
them,
to
I
this.
felt them.
I got a boxed Nintendo 64, Pokemon Stadium 2, Donkey Kong 64, a boxed Chrono Trigger for the SNES, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas Special Edition, a very unique special edition.
Yeah.
All brand new. All those games were less than €60 combined. I then got hit the holy grail of holy grails, a Japanese exclusive Cowboy Bebop limited edition set, which again was a game I always had my eye on. Very curious about. Occasionally see clips of people playing it on YouTube and stuff, but obviously you couldn't get it anywhere else since it was a Japanese exclusive, and was like, holy fuck. I spent €80 for that, but that thing goes for hundreds and hundreds online.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my main selection. I also got a Nintendo 64 controller for the Switch Online. By going to the Nintendo store in Tokyo and Kyoto, which was amazing. And I needed to prove I had a Nintendo Online subscription to buy it, which was fancy. So, overstimulated by the whole thing. It was just incredible. All
fantastic items that you bought, and it sounds, from what you've been telling me, it sounds like it was the trip of a lifetime. And that the Cowboy Bebop game is very, very cool. I love that it has it has a T-shirt, a special edition T-shirt.
So they're sealed, right? It still has the PlayStation 2 seal of approval on it.
Yeah,
so it's the game with the alternate special edition art. It has a little lanyard with it. It has a T-shirt completely sealed, and has a CD and an art book all sealed as well. Yeah, incredible.
Nice. A very, very cool piece. And then that N64 controller is an absolute. It's a thing of beauty.
Why don't you tell the audience how you got your hands on that? What were we doing?
Well, I broke into your house while you were asleep, and I just...
Yeah, I could tell because I found my underwear on the side of the bed, and I said, Jesus Christ, what's happening here, lads?
They must have fell out of my pocket while I was...
Yeah, you're getting in for a sniffy good time. Oh, nothing like it. Nothing like a bit of key taint after 5 hours stream, you know.
I came down to Cork last week. Was it last week? Last weekend to visit Keith. And the plan for me and Keith was to come down and record loads of try out some video stuff and that kind of thing. And as soon as I got there, we were like, wouldn't mind going for an L pint. Pint of Guinness. Yeah,
but this was one of the things, right? So you can imagine, right? Myself and Nisha, like, you know, we sit down to record a podcast. We're all kind of work, you know what I mean? Like, you know, we have like a few hours at the end of the day. It's like, we better get straight into recording an episode, you know. That's kind of how we work, because, you know, we're trying to fit in time. You got a family and a kid and you're working. I'm fucking streaming like 8 hours a day, do you know what I mean? So we try and fit it in. So we had all the intentions of being like, we're going to get 9 days work done in 1 hour. And then the second I saw Nisha, he's like, I feel like going for a pint. It's like, me too.
But we did was it a 3-hour stream? Did we do 3 hours of a stream?
We did do a 3-hour stream, yeah.
That was great fun. That was really good fun.
I think it was really good. We had Dragon Ball reactionary to the green dub.
That was very cool.
Yeah, which you kind of were struggling to understand at the beginning. It's 10 out of 10. You can watch it on the VODs on our Kick page at the moment, but I also have it saved, and we'll make clips out of it as the time goes for some Patreon content and some YouTube content as well. So there is a lot of content in that. Nisha was killing Ocarina of Time, by the way. He was like speedrunning it. It was very impressive.
Oh, that was great. But that's how I was playing the N60, using that N64 controller. That's the Switch N64 controller, and it really is an incredible piece of machinery, because the one thing any kind of N64 fan will know is the struggle of having a controller that has a really loose stick, the analog stick in the middle.
The wizard sleeve of N64 controllers, as I like to refer to it.
And this thing was so fucking tight. It was like just the feel, the controller, Keith, and it was really, really good. It just, and the response time was perfect. There was no lag, no nothing like that, because obviously it's wireless, and just.
Which you would think would increase lag, but it really is just like 1-to-1. It's very impressive. And like it has its own unique sounds when you're navigating the menu too. Which is incredible. But yeah, so brilliant. we had a lovely weekend together. We needed that, you know what I mean? I think nice we both realized that after we did the stream, we were like, we just need to catch up and hang out, you know, because that's good for the content too. We wouldn't have these stories otherwise for a podcast, you know?
True, because every time we meet up, it's usually we're working, if it's going to an event or something like that. So it is nice to meet up and just have a bit of downtime and just kind of chill out and hang out and watch Dragon Ball Z movies.
Oh,
we watched,
yes.
What was it? Resurrection, Battle
of Gods and Resurrection F, to continue your Dragon Ball education.
Yeah, and I absolutely loved them. They're the first proper, like, modern movies that I've seen. What movie did me and you watch before the short? It was about Future Trunks, was it?
Yes, so that was a TV special, The History of Trunks, which was pretty cool as well. And then there's the Bardock one as well. Man, there's so many memes from the stream. So like I kept showing pictures of Nisha with Goku hairstyle. People are like, is this Goku, Bardock or Turles? And you were like, Bardock, no, Turles.
And it was neither of them.
Oh, it was so good.
It was brilliant.
But be sure to check that VOD out.
So Tears of the Kingdom, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I won't jump in too much ahead of my full opinion.
Give me though, like, you know what I do want from you though is I do want you to kind of you just finished the game last night, right?
Last night, yeah.
So this was kind of why we wanted to talk about it. Give me kind of just hot off the heels. What are you feeling about the game? Even if you can't remember it all, like, what are your feelings towards it? Because it started off, you told me that you couldn't get into it, which is a unique perspective.
Yeah. So when I first got the game, I couldn't get into it. So I turned it on, I fired it up, and I played a couple of hours, and I was like, this is just Breath of the Wild, and the mechanics of the, you know, attaching things together and turning back time and all, and I couldn't get my head around it all, and it felt too much, and for some reason it just wasn't grabbing me. I couldn't get into it, and I don't know why. So I moved on, and I think I might have played Final Fantasy 7 after that, the PS1 Final Fantasy 7, and then when I was finished that, I was like, I just turned it on one night, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of getting into this now, and I played a few hours. And as time went on, I kept going back to it, and I kept going back to it, and I finished up my Switch profile says I've 85 plus hours on it, and that is the most I've played of a game in, I'm gonna say, 10 plus years, 15 plus years maybe.
Except Final Fantasy 7 probably, was it? Was that even more?
No, Final Fantasy 7, no. I think I got through that short enough. I think like around 40 50 hours-ish. But this, it was just the adventure. I got totally wrapped into just exploring. You know, usually when I'm playing games, I'm kind of just playing it to get through it. I don't, you know, because I don't usually kind of allow myself, like, say, a 4-hour window to play games. But this, I'd be playing for, say, 4 hours, and I wasn't necessarily trying to achieve anything. I was just exploring. I was just trying to find the tower so I could launch myself up into the sky and see where I could fly to and find new heights and climb mountains and just explore and find caves. And it just, the whole sense of wonder and adventure just totally had me hooked, and I fucking loved it.
I think this is the thing that it does really, really well, which is like, it gives you a sense of play. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, sometimes you sit down for a game and it's like, okay, I'm going to progress the story by 3 hours. But I think I mean, Breath of the Wild was similar, but I think Tears of the Kingdom even more so, because there was all those building elements, which are a little daunting at the beginning. And I do agree that, you know, when you're talking about, you know, there was a bit of a barrier to entry to be like, this is too overwhelming. I don't even know where I can begin with this. But as you chip away at it, you become more confident and you can enjoy it more. But that idea of play that is lost in a lot of games, you know, going in any direction, making whatever you want, and you actually, like, you know, probably took you a while, but you actually managed to sit down and it's like, oh, I'm just going to go play. And I don't mean like play a video game. I mean, you're just going to go play like a kid plays. Do you know?
Yeah. Totally. No, that's totally what it was. Because again, I wasn't sitting there with the objective of completing main quests or side quests even. It was just an adventure, having a bit of fun, seeing, can I climb this building, fighting a random monster that I encounter, and it totally hooked me in, and I couldn't believe it. I kind of didn't want to finish it towards the end.
Sure. Which is always a great sign, you know?
100%, yeah, because I knew as soon as I finished the main quest, I kind of be like, right, I'm kind of finished, you know, I've done all I need to do. Again, I've put in nearly 100 hours. I don't feel the need to go back to it, and I kind of was prolonging it, and I was just adventuring and discovering and down in the dark world or the underworld, and just
which is the big thing about, like, you know, from Breath of the Wild, they obviously had some of the sky islands, but I actually think outside maybe, you know, some of the like dedicated dungeons in the sky is just kind of like little bits of land that you can kind of, and outside the intro and maybe a dungeon, the underground is actually where it's at, right? And that's kind of the big surprise, you know. You're trying to get all the pose to unlock different armor, and the really good thing about that game is like there's so much things you can unlock. Like there's all these different suits and different clothes, and there's so much homage and lineage to previous Zelda games. And you can find the Wind Waker outfit, and you can find the Ocarina of Time outfit, and the Majora's Mask, and the Tingle, and the Ganon, and all that. Now, but one big question I think which is interesting to ask you, and I'm curious with you being hot off the heels of it, is, so Breath of the Wild came out and it's a monumental masterpiece that innovated the Zelda formula. Does Tears of the Kingdom, as perfect maybe as a game of as it is, like, did it do enough? Did it, like, which do you prefer? Do you know? Because obviously there's a novelty of when the first one comes out, and that feels so new that it's in your brain a bit more. But did Tears of Kingdom, like, improve on what needed to be improved on? Like, what do you think?
If I'm to think of which one I prefer now, it's very fresh in my mind, and I only finished it last night. But if I was to go back and play one, I'd be definitely going back to Tears of the Kingdom over Breath of the Wild. And I honestly didn't think that's where my head would be, because I loved Breath of the Wild. I thought it was amazing, but I didn't have that sense of adventure with Breath of the Wild that I did with Tears of the Kingdom, and that sense of just walking around. Like, I didn't even bother with getting a horse really in Tears of the Kingdom. I wasn't arsed with horses. I was just walking around. And I'd walk and I'd climb and I'd launch myself up into the sky and I'd fly around, and because I wanted to see as much as I could, and I feel like they expanded hugely on it, and giving you the different powers and there's so many different elements that they've added to this game that I definitely think they've done it justice, and they added enough that they needed to add to make it a legitimate sequel and not just
not 1.5 or whatever
cash cow. Or 100%. Yeah. No, I feel like although at the start I felt like this visually looks like the same game,
sure, which it is.
Yeah. But when you get to the nuts and bolts of Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like it's a totally, although it is the same blueprint, it's expanded so much that it feels totally brand new, and I feel like they've done enough. 100%.
Yeah, I feel like your enjoyment of the game is going to be really hinged on how much you can lean into playing, right? Because it's like, for me, the parts that I loved was actually the creating the machines, creating cars. Like, the physics engine is so good, and all the shrines, right? Some people hate this, but I love it, right? You can be like cleverly stupid to beat a shrine, right? So you can be like, they don't force you to do it their way. Like, if you can figure out a way to build something that flips you over, and then you get caught on something and you roll over and you manage to glide down to something, you can have it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what you get to do them your way. And I know some people don't like that because they say, and this is the critiques I hear of the game all the time, right? So for a lot of people, it's a case of like, I miss the linearity of original Zelda games, and I guess this applies to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not saying this is just a generalized internet view. So people like puzzles that have to be solved a certain way, because quite often they're a little bit more thought is kind of put into them, right? Quite often in Tears of the Kingdom, you have more of an obstacle course that has to be, done your way, rather than something that's maybe a bit more of a puzzle. But for me, I'm like, don't get me wrong. Here's my big thing that I'd like to say to everyone who listens, and I think it's very interesting. I still want there to be open world Zelda, but I still also want there to be linear Zelda. Like, I would love to have both at the same time. Like, and this is why I think it's such a shame we don't have handheld consoles and a main console or a subsidiary Nintendo console, because I feel like we could be getting Wind Waker 2 on the 4DS. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's something that could exist, right? But I do think Tears of the Kingdom is a phenomenal game. It's a game that I loved building in. I think it takes a little hot minute to get used to. But do I think it's going to erase the novelty and spectacle of the original game in my mind and how that impacted me first day? No. So,
really?
Do I think Tears of the Kingdom is a better game? Yes. Do I think it's a more memorable game? No. Do you know?
Oh, right. Okay. You see, I wonder, but is that to do with the fact that Breath of the Wild was the first of the two, and it was such an impactful thing, I just don't know. I feel like Breath of the Wild was fantastic, and I can't say anything bad about it, but this is just expanded so much that I couldn't see myself going back to it. Yeah.
I agree. Like, I think in a weird way, right? Look, if you've never played Breath of the Wild, I'd be like, play Tears of the Kingdom. Don't play. I don't think you need to play Breath of the Wild, right? Because I think going back, I think gameplay wise, it is a better game, Tears of the Kingdom. Like, just, exploring wise, gameplay wise. But what about story?
Yeah, like, I really like this story, man. I really liked it. It went, and I'm not gonna go spoiler heavy on it and say certain things that happened.
Sure. I mean, look, I don't know. I think there might be an opportunity, maybe towards the end of the podcast where we could, maybe go a bit more spoiler territory, and people can choose not to listen at that point if they want to, because obviously, we're in the business of promoting games, and we want people to play them. So, maybe we'll allow that. But overarching story from a blurb, back a DVD box point of view, you enjoyed it?
Really enjoyed it, yeah. And I felt very satisfied in the end, and went away that I wasn't expecting. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the story. I was totally wrapped in with the story. I felt the need to, although again I didn't want the game to finish, I felt it. I was like, I need to know. I need to find out what's happening here, and I need to make it to the end to see what's what. And again, I'm trying to be somewhat vague here because I don't want to be saying things, but personally I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was great, and I do feel it was an improvement on Breath of the Wild. So 100%. What about you? What are your thoughts story wise?
I think it's interesting. So like I enjoyed the intro of the game. I thought it was excellent. So like, just to give kind of people an idea, so at the end of the first game there is, I guess, like your Zelda is basically containing like a form of spiritual Ganondorf, and then at the end of the first game you're going through, releasing her from that, right? So that's, kind of where we're at, because if you're going to be playing the second one, you're going to need to know the story of the first one, whether you're going to play it or not, right? So you're in that, basically, like a typical Mario or Zelda game, without giving you the rest of the details. You end up saving Zelda. She comes out from being trapped in an energy sense from holding back evil, right? So, we basically start Tears of the Kingdom in a scenario where we kind of assume some time has passed. We know Link and Zelda had a history before she was encapsulated, and it's been 100 years later that she's been encapsulated. But before that, Link was acting as her bodyguard, right? He was a knight for her. And so there's always that kind of connection between them. So I think it's kind of interesting. This one starts with the two of them together, and they're going underneath the castle. Hyrule Castle that was taken over by Ganondorf, because there's this thing called gloom, which is like seen to be infecting the place. And basically what they find under there is like an old prune shriveled up Ganondorf who stares at them, and it's scary as fuck, and it's like a horror movie.
Yeah,
and the whole thing kind of expands from there. That intro cutscene I think is fantastic, looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that's like a really good thing. And what happens is basically, this is in the first 20 minutes of the game, Ganondorf essentially is being held together by this entity that breaks. Link tries to stop it, he loses an arm, and Zelda disappears. She goes into some void, falling down a cavernous hole somewhere. So that's kind of like your inkling if someone's listening and they're like, does that interest me? Do I want to find out what happened, Zelda? What the hell happened, Link's arm? How is Ganondorf the shriveled up prune? What's going on? So that kind of gives you your intro, which I think is really, really cool. And then you end up in a tutorial, kind of Sky Island, you're kind of brought someplace, yada yada. So basically the story of that carrying on from the first one I think is good. Like I really think the linkage between the first and second is quite nice. There's things in the story that people don't like that I hear, and look, I enjoy it. I like the story. I think it's good. But I think the cutscenes are better. I think where it goes is interesting. I think there's some twists and turns. They're not the most cleverest twists and turns. Like some of them are kind of obvious, who's who, right, who's pretending to be who, what's going on. But I don't know. I thought it was really good. I thought the ending was magnificent. As like a whole sequence that went on was incredible. However, if I was to say things I didn't like, I think they really tried in the game to do the 4 dungeons in this game like old linear Zeldas, because that's what people complained about. And so they did get to give us like a fire and a water experience. But I actually think as dungeons, they're even weaker than the Divine Beast from the first game. Because while aesthetically they're kind of like hit the mark for the most part, the Divine Beasts were actually far more clever. They were these moving dungeons. Now aesthetically, the Divine Beasts and ambiently, I think from the first game as dungeons were weak aesthetically. They were kind of the same thing going on. But in terms of actually this physically moving puzzle that's walking around as this giant beast that you're inside, I thought it was kind of better. True. But then again, you just go back to the new mechanics of building in Tears of the Kingdom. It's like banjo, nuts and bolts combined with Zelda, even though I know that might sound not so hot, but it's just excellent. It's just excellent.
I feel like we kind of... How let me just double check how far. So we're roughly we've gone past, say, the 20-minute mark now. I feel like we need to get into spoiler territory to really discuss the story. So what do you think? Do you think should we give people notice now and get into spoilers of the story? I
can. I guess also just for regular listeners to know is that this, like, we're doing a little bit of a kind of a more of a 0.5 episode for this, because I'm just back from holidays and stuff, so we wanted to get something recorded, so it'll be a little bit shorter. Do you know what I mean? It is a little bit of a style, and we wanted to talk about a new game since you just finished it, so just so the expectations for that as well are kind of in check. Do you know what I mean? So we're kind of going to do a little bit of a shorter chat around this, but also, hence why we're like halfway going into spoiler territory.
Well, I think what we'll do is we'll ask Aaron to stick the ad in, and then when we come back from the ad, we'll be going no holds barred. So prepare yourself for
like imagine leg spread eagles, depravity cavity stretch open. My panties are sunny side up, and my custard chucker is just laced to the side of my leg. Ready? Roll the tape.
Thank you so much for listening to Press Any Button to Continue. If you would like to see more, you can find us on Instagram and X at Press Any Podcast.
Of course, if you want to catch up with our Discord, the link is in the show notes. This is primarily where we will ask you questions for future episodes and interact with our community. We do as well have a YouTube at Press Any Button to Continue, where we're currently doing a Dragon Ball Z reactionary content. Of course, as well, we do have a Patreon where you can support us directly at patreon.com/Press Any Button to Continue, where we have exclusive content and even some special stickers to send you if you sign up.
And if you like what you hear, please remember to rate, review and share the podcast, as it really helps us grow.
Now, no more diddle-daddling, back to the show.
Okay, so we're back from the ad, and again, I feel like we can't have a full conversation, the two of us, without talking spoilers. So mechanics wise, incredible game. The building, incredible.
It's so polished as well. Like,
yeah.
The fact that there's no glitches in that game when you can do whatever the fuck you want is insane. Like, I'd say they spent half their time making that game, making sure it just had no bugs, because you have an ability that lets you shoot up through rocks, go up through, like, it's so handy. That's so easy to break as a game design point of view, so yeah.
True. So from the 4, or is it 5? So you get the wind, fire, water, lightning, and then the robot, say, or your 5 people that help you out, and the 5 kind of power-ups that you get, okay, from sages of time past. Which of these were your favourites? Which ones did you like? Which ones did you not like? And hit me with them.
I loved the lead up to all of them. I thought getting to them was something that was new, right? So in the old game, in Breath of the Wild, you just got there and you were in it, right? This has a whole journey to getting to them. So like with the wind one, you're going up on these pirate ship sail things and you're bouncing and you're climbing and you're going higher and higher to get to it. I love that. Same with the water temple. So like they all have these really great intros, and then I think the intros are better almost than the actual dungeon, because they're quite short. They're quite easy in a way. But I guess one that stuck out, I can't think of the lightning one in my head for some reason.
I think that's my favourite.
What happens in the lightning one? Can you give me like
so basically the sage, you ask them a question, or you activate the sage or whatever, and then a circle of lightning that expands will grow, and when you hit an arrow within that lightning, it'll send a big huge lightning bolt down. Yes,
that was cool. And also Urbosa, man, thick thighs save lives, like sit on my face, you know what I mean? She's the dummy mommy from Breath of the Wild. What's the name of the one who's actually with you as a power? I can't remember her name.
I can't remember the name specifically.
But Urbosa is like her mommy or something, I don't know. And oh my god. Right. Fucking the thighs, man. Like you could literally, like, I just suffocate to death and I'd just be happy. Anyway, sorry, you're asking me about dungeons.
So, you were saying you didn't like the lightning one. I loved.
Sorry, I didn't say I didn't like it. I said I couldn't remember it.
Oh, right.
So you had to remind me, but I remember.
Which sage was your favourite?
I like, okay, so look, the fire one we were going on the carts was a cool idea, and I liked the spectacle of it, but it was a little frustrating because I had to basically like feel like I had to glitch my way through that. But the water one I found to be kind of satisfying, but I didn't enjoy the lead up to it so much. God, I don't know. I'm gonna say probably the wind one. It was a bit like a classic Divine Beast with the best lead up, but it was a little bit simple. And then the boss was amazing.
Power up, not specifically the dungeon. Sorry, not specifically the dungeons.
Sorry.
But because I think my favourite of the dungeons, if you call it, or temples, whatever you want to call it, was the wind one as well. I really enjoyed it. But of the power ups that you bring around with you, did you have like one activated the whole time? You know, you can deactivate
yes,
them.
I do. I think the fire rolly guy is interesting because you can roll on grass and it creates steam that you can glide up on, which I think is cool. So, you know, you use them to roll.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't fucking know that. No way.
So he's nice to get into the sky quickly with the guy that boosts you then.
I didn't notice that. Fuck.
So there's that fire rolly guy. There's the fucking stupid country and boosts you. No. The bird boosts you. The Goron goes into fire rolly. What are the lightning gives you a lightning shield or something? Is it?
Yeah. Then the water will either give you a shield or like a water shield around you.
Yeah.
Or when you hit your sword, it'll fire out like a water dash or a water fucking splash.
Cold hard facts here. The powers in the first game for the sages were better. Not generally for a thing, but I like I found it so frustrating that in the first game you could shoot up. There was, instead of the wind carrying you further, it shot you up.
Up
So
into
you
the
could
air.
yeah, which was like so handy. There was also the Goron give you the shield, which was super handy. And also there was Urbosa's thunder strikes. I don't know. I found the Sage's powers, not the main mechanics of the building and the bombs and shit you get, but like the Sage powers were better than the first. I guess, God, I don't know. They were all kind of fucking annoying the way they followed you around too. Like I wanted to be. I didn't like the way their ghosts were following me everywhere. Like by 4 of them, it took me a while to figure out I could turn them off, and I was like, praise be.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I'd have them deactivated most of the time, except for the wind Sage,
and they went off by accident all the time. like fucking premature squirt your dirt. Like you're trying to fucking just pick an item up, and he's like, "Urbosa's wind up, and it's like killing the villagers by accident around you.
Yeah. And what about? So, do you have a favorite of the power ups?
I guess I'll go with the Goron Rollerball.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty good one. Very handy for when you're mining, and you have to break rocks and stuff. Very, very handy. Yeah, I loved the lightning one. Did use the wind one an awful lot, in your lodge.
Yeah, I mean that gets the most used. In fairness,
yeah.
Do you want to know something cool as well? So when you go, so the game has like these Assassin's Creed style towers that you do the map with, like in the first game, but they shoot you up into the sky so you can map the sky, the middle, and the ground. So do you know when you go into those towers and it has that little gust of air that shoots you up, and you have that like umbilical cord thing, and you survey the land and you put it on your Sheikah slate? So that's an Easter egg to Wind Waker. So do you know that goes? You know the way you get into it and the cutscene goes boom, 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 pow. So it goes 3 angles, boom, boom, boom. Pow. That's the exact same music and the exact same angles that take place in Wind Waker when Link is in the cannon, when he first sets sail and he's in the cannon, he shoots off into Forsaken Fortress. Way. Yeah, Deadly. So that's like an identical thing there, which is really cool.
That's very cool. I love that launching you up into the air.
Oh yeah, it's super satisfying. And the fact you can dive, like the whole air mechanics of being able to dive was just super satisfying. What was the question you asked me?
Well, I asked you what was your favourite power up, and you said the Goron with the fire rollerball. Here's another question. So, of the dark world, the underworld, the main world, and the sky world, where did you spend most of your time?
So oddly enough, like the underworld place was very mysterious to me, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, I can't believe that game fits on a Switch card. Do you know what I mean? It blows my mind. Like that tiny card. Like the underworld is like literally double the size. Now, does it have as much going on? No, but it's completely dark. It's mysterious. You're trying to track and light your way. Like it's a real sense of adventure. And when you encounter anything, you're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
And the fact that that's where all the gloom is that rots weapons and stuff. I will say, breaking weapons like still drives me a little bit nuts. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate that it makes you move around things, but I feel like we should have heals or something, that it's like, you could take a certain weapon to this like person and he's like, well, like the Master Sword, when it breaks, it rejuvenates every couple of minutes. What about you?
I agree. It took me a while to realize that the underworld was like doubling the size of the map almost. If not totally doubling the size of the map. I don't know exactly because I didn't finish exploring at all, but I explored a hell of a lot, and I found myself to be drawn to that. Although I did love the main world, of course. The Sky Islands, I wasn't really arsed with them, to be honest.
There wasn't much going on outside the tutorial area.
Yeah, I didn't really kind of.
There wasn't anything. There was just little pieces of land. Like, it wasn't like there was a whole place to explore without you having to fall off and like go somewhere else.
But what I did find was, I of the whole game, one of my favorite areas was there's like a beachside town that was taken over by monsters.
Yeah, very cool.
And you had to get rid of them. Did you do that one where you cleared them all out and there was the ship in the middle?
Yeah,
I fucking love. I don't know what that was so satisfying. And you rebuild all the buildings.
Yeah. So it's like Tarrytown Part 2 or whatever kind of thing from the first game.
Very cool. Here's a question for you that I didn't find out. In the first game where you have your own house, which I loved. I loved that aspect. Can you do that in this house? Did you find, or do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I actually don't know.
I didn't find out.
That whole mission,
you possibly might.
Yeah, that whole mission in Breath of the Wild was great, where like there was a marriage and stuff after you completed the whole
Oh, what's
Do you remember? So in Breath of the Wild, when you completed the whole house building thing, you have your own house. There was like this couple that gets married in it and stuff, and it's really, really cute.
Class, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, that's kind of like mechanically, look, visually, I think it's actually still a gorgeous game. And I wish I got an OLED Switch for Christmas as a present, and I wish I had that playing Tears of the Kingdom, because that would have been lovely.
Yeah.
But if we're to go into the story, if you want to take me on through, a couple of questions since we're in the spoiler territory of it. At what point did you realize that the Zelda that was been sighted around the place was Ganondorf this whole fucking time?
I fucking knew that fairly quick. I personally copped onto that fairly quick, thinking, no, there's no way. This is just a shadow. This is a clone, a fake. It's not Zelda. Like I felt that fairly quick. Yeah. I don't know if it was as obvious to others. Like when did it hit you quick? Did you realize it quick?
Like I think straight away when it's just like a random spirit kind of. Now I think what was interesting is I wasn't entirely sure like why the spirit was there, why it was guiding. Like, you know, if like obviously look, it was a Ganon at the end of the day. But I think it's what I think was very good about the story is how you had the tears, right? So the tears show you memories, just like the first game, right? And I thought the whole idea of the fact that we were kind of like the fact that, huge spoilers here, there's a dragon in the sky through the whole game that is literally in the game as you're playing it the whole time, that you can see. You can actually jump on it early and get the Master Sword early if you want to before the main mission comes up. And has a Master Sword stuck in its fucking head. And it's the whole time Zelda's there in dragon form, flying above you. And I was like, what the fuck? And even when you figure out that you're like, how did this happen to be? And you get a real Trunks Dragon Ball Z story where you get like a parallel of the fact that Zelda has time powers, as has always been known. And she, when pruned Ganondorf down in the basement to Hyrule Castle, she accidentally activated her powers, went back fucking God knows 100 years ago to when she first awakened and was with the other Hyrule people who was under different princess. Yeah, and it was just like, and what was your one's name? She was hot, man.
Fucking, I can't remember. Raru's wife.
Yeah, Raru's fucking horn by.
I can't remember.
Like I thought that was all great. There was great cutscenes with Ganon as well in his full force, laughing, killing people. Like incredible.
I think you had actually said to me the one recommendation that you gave me when I started getting into the game was to find all of the Dragon's Tears.
Yes.
To see the cutscenes, and I did that. And it was really, really cool to see them. And then you can go back and watch them all in order. And,
you also get an extra 5-minute cutscene after credits for getting all of them as well.
Is that that's where that came up from?
Yeah. Where they're all kind of saying goodbye.
All up in the,
that only happens if you get all the tears, so you wouldn't have seen that.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
No way.
So quite an important one.
That was a really nice. I feel like I'd have felt slightly unsatisfied if I hadn't seen that. Where they're all up in the island, and what's your one's name who's fucking hot as fuck as well, the scientist?
Jesus, like absolutely god, like top 10 sexiest video game characters part 2, like put her like number 1, you know what I mean? I'm like, do a
revised episode. We should do another episode.
Oh, we 100% will. This episode is only a little warm up to me being back home. Do you know what I mean? We got a whole selection of fucking episodes to do. This season will probably end up being 12 episodes long because we've had fucking God knows what going on in between.
Yeah, that's all right.
This is only a little warm up, man. I got plenty of shit to squirt on. Yeah. So the crack is, she's so hot. Fuck. God, little fucking white haired glasses do your mats all over me. Fuck, man. She has like tights on as well or something, and it's just like disgrace. I'm a disgrace, like.
So
we're talking about Zelda.
You're after getting totally derailed.
The ending, you would have not been satisfied unless you got that super secret extra cutscene.
Yeah. And it's not like a huge amount happens in it, but it's just it ties it up nicely. I think it's like a nice emotional with the music playing, the Zelda music playing. I also love how in those games they like remix the tunes, you know, so like you have like Dragon Roost Island is used in that remixed and stuff, you know. Yeah, and then it went proper Zelda fucking theme at the end. Very, very cool. And do you know what one thing actually is, like the fact that Link doesn't talk, it never seems odd. They did that really well in this, because there's a lot of videos and there's a lot of talking and everyone else talking. It doesn't. It's obviously it's a little bit, but it's not. It doesn't feel out of place. Link not saying anything, which I thought was quite cool, and I thought it was done really well.
Yeah.
But story wise, I really enjoyed the story. Again, getting all the dragon's tears, I felt like really made me kind of love the game a lot more, because I can kind of understand, you know, where, say, Zelda's fucking gone and what's going on, and then the dragon sequence like fucking blew me away. I was like, I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah. Before even getting to that, like, I think the really clever parts of the story is, so the second Zelda disappears, the broken Master Sword disappears and goes back to her, and then she has the Master Sword in the past when Link is in the present going through his time, and then basically, you know, in her time, that's when Ganon is alive and causing destruction, and they have all the sages together to try and fight Ganon as one, and Ganon's too powerful, so they have these sage stones that increase their power, but if you eat one, you turn into an eternal dragon, and she's like, fuck it, I'm going to use my sacred light in the past for 100 years to restore the Master Sword in the present, so that Link in his timeline, she's like, I know he'll be able to get the sword back if I do this now, and she turns herself into a dragon, and it's done through all these pieces, and then he gets the Master Sword, flying on Zelda Dragon after defeating Phantom Ganon and a revived Ganon in his current timeline. Ganon's so pissed off that he too eats the stone, and then you're fucking two fucking Studio Ghibli dragons fucking anal beating each other in the sky.
It's so good. Like that final sequence of the two dragons in the sky and you having to jump off like Zelda and onto Dragon Ganon is so fucking cool. I just, that whole like flying through the sky element is something that not flying, gliding and falling is something that I absolutely adored about this game. And the story, how the story goes, the final battle, do you know what I fucking loved, right? So you're fighting Ganon, and you beat his first form, and then his second form comes in, and his power bar just keeps going.
Yes, that is
and then
so
power bar,
cool.
and it goes right to the edge of the screen. I was like, what the fuck? I was looking at it last night, I was playing, I was like, fucking stop, and it just kept going.
It's like fourth wall breaking moment in Zelda, where they're like, they acknowledge that it's a video game almost, because it's like, his life bar goes out of the screen. So that's
it was
awesome.
So fucking cool with the way that happened. I was
definitely a highlight.
Oh man, and I was like, this feels impossible now, you know. It gave you that sense of, oh fuck, this is a serious battle. Yeah, and it was, oh man, it was just so good. And I love how Ganondorf looks in this game. Very,
great.
very, very cool. And whoever, I don't know, I know the voice actor, I've heard the voice.
Matt Mercer, I think is his name.
Is it? Yeah, very, very cool. Plays very, very well. But oh man, that fucking the second form Ganon with the energy bar just kept going and going and going. I was like, oh fuck, this is insane.
How as a game, you know, talking about mechanically, story, everything else. Also, obviously, look, I know it's hard sometimes to have like games you just finished in your memory to compare them forever, because when we talk about retro games and we get nostalgic about them, it's because they're that often, you know, they're parts of our childhood, they're parts of our memories that are like near and dear to us. How would you rank Tears of the Kingdom amongst all the other Zelda games?
It's definitely up there. It is definitely up there, man. It has to be top 5. I'm trying to think of, obviously, Ocarina of Time was my favourite. Then I love A Link to the Past. I love Link's Awakening. This is, man, it's up there. It's top 5, because again, the reason why, one of the things that I loved about this game is, and although it's a brand new game, it brought me back to a style of gaming that I genuinely haven't done since I was a kid, and that was get totally immersed and lost in games. I've mentioned before how a couple of years ago I was playing Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo, and I remember one night when I was playing it, like hours went by and I didn't realise that so much time had passed, and that only had happened once, But that kept happening for me in this game, and I kept losing myself in the adventure and the wonder of it all. And for that reason, it's up there in, like, has to be solidified as one of my favourite video games now for that reason, because again, it was so good that it just totally wrapped me up in the game. I got totally lost and immersed in not just the gameplay, not just the story, but the adventure, the wonder of what's over this ridge, what's under this rock, what's in this cave. And yeah, it's to answer your question of how do I compare it to other Zelda games, it's one of the best. For me, it's one of the best. What about you?
I find this really interesting, right? Because it's like a different genre of game from the other Zeldas, right? Because like you can compare Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but like it's literally a different genre to the previous ones, right? The other ones are very, like, as I said, like a linear experience, and this is literally an open world game. But I will say, like, it's definitely, look, you have Ocarina, you have Wind Waker, probably Tears of the Kingdom, Link to the Past kind of vibes, you know, probably top 4 in there as well. Yeah. It's hard because it's hard to compare them directly because they are quite different beasts. Like, you know, but I would be similar for sure. I think one thing that I think is great to take away from it, which I noticed with you playing it, is it broke your curse of you thinking you couldn't play a modern game anymore.
100%. So to put into context for listeners, I've attempted to play a lot of new games in the past 2 years. Big games like Red Dead 2, The Witcher 3, Dragon Age, and I just felt like it was an impossible task for me to do, to invest 100 hours in, you know. I just thought I couldn't do it, and I'm very heavily, I play a lot more modern games, but this one just, it was so good that I was able to get past that. The time thing didn't bother me because I wasn't concerned about time. I was not playing to get on to the next mission, to finish the next objective. I was just playing to, as you said, to play. I just wanted to play, to explore, to just move around and just be in that world. Yeah,
like it reignited that ability just to kind of like go into that space, you know?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like this has been quite like rejuvenating kind of game to experience for me. And you know, that might sound a bit fucking out there, but it really, for me personally, like you said, it has broken that thing of I can't play modern games because I haven't, like, look, I focus on retro games because I do enjoy the art style, but I also kind of I dabble in modern gaming, but this has been like, fuck. There's good shit out there, man. Like The Witcher 3 now, I'm kind of like, ooh. Yeah,
so like this is interesting, right? And I think this is maybe a good point to leave it on. But I think, like, you know, The Witcher 3 for me, I had to play it 3 times because I think, quite frankly, we go back to old things a lot when we need comfort. And obviously I think we need comfort a lot, right? And I think, you know, we look at nostalgic, we look at TV shows, you know, you watch the same episode of Friends for the 6th time instead of trying something new because, you know, sometimes after a hard day, all we want is a comfort. We don't want to push ourselves even more, you know? And I think sometimes when it takes to get into new games or returning to old games for different reasons, or, you know, playing an old game for the first time is still new. Sometimes it's like your frame of mind, right? It's a time, it's a place. I often find the games that resonate with you the most that are new are usually during times where, like, you as yourself evolve as a person a little bit and you're ready to try something new, and then that like sticks with you as almost part of your personal growth as a person. That's the game you played when you finally got out of that rut and you did this and you tried something new or whatever, you know? And I found 100%. That many times in my life that there's those games where it could have been over Christmas and I had the year where I needed to do what I did, and then this big game came out and I was playing it and I could enjoy it because my mental frame of mind was I can absorb something new and I you know, I don't have to have the comfort of something old.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you had kind of mentioned that to me before, and it really has hit me that I have finished it and that I have put all that time in. I think that's maybe what was holding me back. And was being in the wrong frame of mind, or a frame of mind where I was more looking for comforts than new. And it's cool to see that when you well, you know, if you're doing something in your personal life that's changing, it can also affect how you're gaming and
how you perceive
art you're consuming and
any art even, or any TV
True.
or any music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the classic, like, these young whippersnappers don't have good music these days. You know what it's like? It's always your perspective of where you are at the right time and what age you are even. And it could be a cool episode idea in the future to maybe do something like how we perceive games from when we were 15 to when we were 30. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, you know, how, because you have different life experiences that make games different for you.
Of course.
But yeah,
that's actually that's a really good idea for us to do an episode on, because obviously you can give your thoughts from an actual professional point of view. As a therapist, a qualified therapist, so you can give insights that not the typical person might be able to give it, and I'd be very interested to go into that conversation a lot deeper.
Potentially, yeah.
Once obviously you're okay doing that.
Oh yeah, of course. I just mean potentially. Maybe I'll have more insight. Maybe I won't. Right. Potentially, potentially. I'm all 100% down for the idea. Just whether something shite will come out of my mouth or not is to be seen. You know.
But I don't think we've ranked a score out of 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 or whatever. If you were to rank Tears of the Kingdom, not just amongst Zelda games, but as a video game, what out of 10? Out of 10 Dragon Tears.
If Tears of the Kingdom existed where Breath of the Wild didn't, it would be far more impactfully probably a 10. In a world where Breath of the Wild did exist before it, not to say it's not an improvement on the game, there is a certain amount of magic and novelty that's lost exploring Hyrule for the second time, right? To an extent, you know, and having that same engine, that same world. So, God, it's like, I'll give it a 9.
Okay, that's fair. That's totally fair.
It could literally be maybe a 10 in a world where the ideas weren't repurposed. Do you know?
Yeah, that's totally fair. I have to give it a 10, just from again how impactful it has been, and again how much time I've put in, and how I feel now that it's finished. It's hit me very hard, and I love it so much and I'm shocked, Keith. Make no mistake, I am shocked that I can sit here, because I was convinced I even asked one of my friends that he wanted. I was like, I'm never going to play that game. It's not going to happen. Like Red Dead 2, like The Witcher 3. I'm like, I've tried a couple of hours. It's not me. It's too big. I can't do it. And to be sitting here giving it a 10 out of 10 is fucking huge. So let it be a lesson that there's always a way you can push forward. You know what I mean? Yeah.
As in, there's always those games. They're not to say that you should like games that other people like, but sometimes games are just good. I also really like as well, thing I keep in my mind, a 10 out of 10 doesn't mean a game's perfect. A 10 out of 10 means you couldn't have enjoyed the game anmore.
Yeah,
and I think that's always a great way of looking at it. Hopefully we have beautiful epic Zelda music splashing on in here that Ireland will add in at some point.
Ireland.
But Ireland, thank you for welcoming me back as well, you gobshite. Well, I guess, you know, two halves are back together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little warm-up exercise podcast, and we're splashing into some of our topics we got lined up for part 2 of season 4.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to having Harry on soon in the next couple of episodes. In the next couple of weeks, maybe we'll have.
In the month
Harry
of March is all I know. We'll be chatting to him, which will be really, really cool. It's been a hot minute since we had a guest on, so that'll be awesome. Yeah.
It actually has been a while. So I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully people enjoyed this. Obviously, look, it's a modern game. And we again, as Keith said, we're kind of keeping this one a little bit shorter than usual, but hopefully everyone enjoyed it, because I felt like we kind of had to do this, especially considering how much like my kind of arc of where I was at the start. And I remember you being so surprised when I was like, I don't.
Yeah, if you
like
can go back and listen to old episodes where Nisha says like, I just don't get it. He literally has you have a whole spiel about like, just can't get into it, don't like how big it is, etc. And now it's all the things you love about it, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. So look, hopefully people enjoyed it, and maybe we'll have to put in the. Sure, we don't get into spoilers until after fucking halfway through, so there's nothing at the start for anyone to be worried about. But can I just say a little shout out there? So two shout outs. One to the 4Gamers pod, who I listened to their recent episode, and twice they mentioned watching you streaming and listening to the
Thank you.
podcast. So fair play to the lads. Thanks very much for that.
And it's very, very cool to see you back. We missed you because it's always nice, you know, 'cause we don't know too many other retro game podcasts, right? So it's nice to get to listen to other people, and you know, we get inspired by other people doing stuff. So it's good to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what I will say is I won't name anyone, but I randomly met a listener of the podcast today, which was very, very cool. So just a quick shout out to them, because it was a nice interaction to get to meet someone who listens to the podcast, and it was nice to have a little conversation and chat with them. So if you're listening, you probably know who you are, because we were having a little chat today. What date is it today? The 27th of February. So a little shout out to them. So thanks for the chats today.
Yeah, if you would, and also, I mean, we'll probably have clips going up later, but I think this will be available for a limited time until I make something specific out of it. If you would like to see the live stream that myself and Nisha did, you can check it out on my VODs on kick.com/steamy_streamers. I think there's a limit of maybe a month on that it says up for, or something like that. I do have it physically saved as well, and we'll try and make little bits and bobs out of it. If you want to get the whole show, see what everyone was chatting about, see what everyone was asking us about, we did a little bit of a Q&A, we did some reactionary content, and we played a little Ocarina of Time, because Nisha, it wouldn't be a Press Any Button to continue episode if we didn't at least fucking talk a little bit about Ocarina of Time. You know what I'm saying? I listened to the last episode, I heard.
Oh, brilliant. And it just comes up. I know we're doing a Zelda episode, but it just comes up. That's just the way it is.
That's the way it goes. Until next time, make sure you get that sexy analyst lady with those glasses and those tights from Tears of the Kingdom.